Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the self-titled debut album from the Highwomen. You know, this would be the sort of album where it would be just too easy to set impossible expectations. Providing, of course, you can contextualize a release like this anyway. That's the funny thing with a lot of supergroups, because given the individual members even a little bit more thought, you might see where it makes sense until it just doesn't. Now, for me, go through three of the artists and it makes complete sense. Brandi Carlile coming off a Grammy-nominated year and probably has enough clout off her back catalog and legacy to land exactly what she wants. Amanda Shires, she might have less immediate critical acclaim, as some have just pigeonholed her as the wife of Jason Isbell, which does a massive disservice to her fantastic violin work and an increasingly eclectic and unique discography, including an album last year that got her a lot of critical acclaim that didn't quite win me over, but was certainly weird enough to attract the right sort of attention. Then there's Natalie Hemby, the name that might not get the most immediate recognition, unless you've been reading the liner notes of A Star Is Born, but I knew her most from her 2017 debut album, Puxico, an excellent project that I still can't find on vinyl to this day. Seriously, if somebody would send me a lead on this, I would be incredibly grateful. But all three of these women, they make sense working together. Not quite the firebrands in the same way as the Pistol Annies are. Maybe a little closer to like Case Langevers or Trio, a legendary team up between Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. And when you see co-writing credits from Jason Isbell himself, Miranda Lambert, Sheryl Crow, and Laurie McKenna, plus production from Dave Cobb, I mean shit, is there such a thing as stacking the deck, especially for stuff that I really like? Well, then there's Maren Morris. Ironically, the most popular artist on this list in terms of her hits, but also the name that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb when I saw the supergroup lineup in terms of her sound and her critical acclaim, and I know I'm not alone in that. Hell, you could make the argument that with her last album, she was just content to mine country for credibility as she continued her pop pivot, which is why her inclusion here is so damn fascinating to me. I mean, her best music has always been country, so maybe if the pop work was just a means to an end to get the industry pull to get to this, hell, all the power to her. Especially if she could leverage her fan base to bring a bigger audience some fantastic talent. In other words, yeah, I had high expectations, but let's not waste any more time. What did we get from the Highwomen? Well, you know, for as much as I open this review setting up expectations and focusing on some of the strangeness of the collaboration, the sad larger reality is that there's already an audience that wants this to faceplant, be it because of long-standing grudges with Maren Morris, or the politics of the artists involved, or even just the mild heresy of setting up such a close mirror to the legendary Highwaymen supergroup that had Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Kris Kristofferson, and Waylon Jennings. But let me make this clear. When I come here and say that the Highwomen is one of the best albums of 2019, not just in country, it's not just in refutation of those remarks, but also how the album is smart enough to see all that criticism coming and yet push even harder. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit stunned how well this came together, how well it coalesced. But I am absolutely thrilled that we got another strong year for women in country and got such a banner entry. What an unexpected treat. I mean, I had high expectations. I was not expecting this. And here's the funny thing. All the women involved, they are well aware of the historical lineage that they are stepping into and all the acclaim surrounding a lot of the Highwaymen albums today, which for as much talent was on display, they're a little inconsistent and dated if we're being honest, especially Highwaymen 2 and especially in the production. I went back to all of them, let me be real there. So when this album opens up with Highwomen, a song that interpolated the original melodic and lyrical structure of Highwaymen, and yet somehow managed just to hit a little harder for me, thanks to more distinctive characters and the unfair ends they faced, it is a testament both to really smart writing and incredible presence as singers. Now this is where the group has gotten some immediate criticism in how the harmonies, they aren't quite as uniform or clean as you would expect, especially in comparison with the Pistol Annies. But I actually like that a fair bit. Between the original four with their own distinctive timbres and guests like Zola and Sheryl Crow, the unique voices, they reflect more unity but also distinctive identity. And the richness of the singing and harmonies regardless is by far the biggest selling point for me. Hell, Zola brings up so much presence on the title track, I gotta wonder if an opportunity was missed to not include her outright. She sounds fantastic. But that also highlights the tricky thing with supergroups like this. balancing out all the talent, especially in an era where you would like to hear verses or harmonies for all four of them in all the songs. Now, I'll be blunt, I do wish there were more tracks where all four women leaned into the big harmonies instead of just ceding time for solo tracks, even if I can also count an impressive number of highlights there as well. And you know what, like with any album that's got multiple singers, I always see it as a bit of a missed opportunity when you don't play a little more with the song structure to have each singer play a distinctive role or have a little bit more interplay. Although I will say that this album does allow individual personality to shine through from each singer that is distinctive from song to song. From Brandi Carlile as the world-weary troubadour, Amanda Shires as the witchy outsider who still has strong ties to her home and family, Maren Morris as the tough girl who wound up growing up way too damn fast, and Natalie Hemby as more of the natural traditionalist, but still having that feminist code all the same. And when you dig into a lot of the writing, not only do these roles really shine through, they actually feel consistent song after song. Take a cut like My Name Can't Be Mama, where for very different reasons, the majority of the women they're not quite ready for motherhood in the family. Hell, Amanda Shires outright takes off from the family she has. But then Natalie Hemby, she isn't really on the song in the same way, because she takes more of the family focus driving Crowded Table, co-written with Lori McKenna because of course it is. And yet later on, she also gets My Only Child, a regretful and rather complicated song grappling with how she wanted more children but can't have them, and yet doesn't want her current child to feel a certain type of way about it. And that's something that actually deserves a lot of attention, especially in the writing. This is an album by women, primarily for women, which is why starting with Highwaymen is such a potent statement of purpose. And while there is a certain element of kitsch to redesigning women, the exasperation behind all the obligations they face can still ring true if you're willing to hear it. They're talking about women's issues that are distinctive to them. And while I think the two Kiss-Off songs, Loose Change primarily from Maren Morris and Don't Call Me primarily from Amanda Shires, they do make sense from their singers and in the context of the album, but they also pale a little bit in comparison with cuts that are delving into more emotional complexity. They feel a little bit too easy, for lack of better words. I mean, take the Jason Isbell co-written If She Ever Leaves Me, sung by Brandi Carlile, as a sort of wonderfully textured lesbian love song that outright shoves the male gaze and the male voice aside, and it works. And when you pair it with the closing song, Wheels of Laredo, where the connection cannot last before she must take to the road again, they hang as beautifully poignant and really wistful moments. It's a really good closer. And then the Father-Daughter Tearjerker that Amanda Shires delivers on Cocktail in a Song, where the words left unsaid between the dying man and a daughter aspiring for his gruff affection, is just an incredibly striking moment, only magnified by the contrast presented by the role that Amanda Shires plays on this album. It makes a lot of sense, and it really comes through well. Hell, even Maren Morris steps up in a big way on Old Soul, where she yearns for that hot-blooded love, but has been ground down by the obligations and experience she has. Hell, I admit I felt that one a lot more than I was expecting, even if I always found the whole Old Soul label a little odd to quantify. But that's also one thing that remains absolutely clear, is that the Highwaymen, they don't just revere the legends that laid the path ahead, including the Highwaymen, but there's also little, if any, animosity towards guys, so much as this album isn't centering them in the universal narrative of the stories they're telling. But they also want to ensure there's space for their voices as well, which is why Heaven is a Honky Tonk plays such obvious tribute in the song structures to the original Highwaymen, but also gently prods towards a larger, inclusive picture. Hell, they're all sinners that have a place up there after all. Why not give them their shot? And here's the thing. If it was just terrific poetry and lyrical nuance and great hooks, that'd be one thing. But for an album like this to still have a burnished warmth and a distinctive country timbre to still fit snugly within the genre, that's another point altogether. And it's hard for me not to consider the majority of the album is just a slam dunk. Now let me stress, if you got issues with Dave Cobb's recording style, well look, some of my consistent gripes, they haven't gone away so much as they're just overshadowed by the quality we do get, but they are here. The bass lines feel a little underweight and lacking in foundation, because if there's a problem with Dave Cobb's work for years now, it's this. The mono mixing of the vocals means some of the blends are a little bit sharper than they should be, and there's a little bit too much reverb as a whole that can muddy a couple mixes from being as crisp and punchy as they should be, especially if the guitars are placed a little bit further back. Now all that being said, the production does feel distinctive from the more bare stretches he's given Jason Isbell and Chris Stapleton, or the burnished vintage tones for Lori McKenna. If anything, it feels like Dave Cobb is producing to give these songs a real shot at the radio while not compromising the country sound. Which is probably a fair enough intersection point for all four of these women, while still giving Brandi Carlile's piano some real space. And especially Amanda Shires' violin, which is back and it was so sorely missed. It sounds great too. And yet those are just the flourishes. What honestly caught me a little off guard was how many pure hooks or switch-ups on the bridge that I saw and really liked. Again, I was lukewarm on Redesigning Women for as blunt as it was on that hook, but the switch to the full harmony on the bridge was exactly what that song needed. Same with the bridge on Crowded Table. And you know what? Say what you will about some of Dave Cobb's production instincts, I can't fault the rich fiddle pickup carrying the main melody of My Only Child, or how it accented the melancholic pianos of Cocktail in a Song, or how the organ added some welcome texture behind Wheels of Laredo, or Redesigning Women, or how Windswept Old Soul was allowed to be probably one of the more conventional hits they could push to radio, or how despite even having primarily on the piano or the more distinctive guitar embellishments that are a little bit more distant, there's still genuine warmth on If She Ever Leaves Me. Hell, on the album as a whole. But as a whole, you know what? Even if I've used the phrase, I'm not fond of saying it's not for me. Because while it might be apt for musical experiences that just don't hit the same emotional heartstrings, and that's different for everyone, I'm always left with the lingering feeling of the possibility that if a certain level of overall quality would hit, it would transcend all that. And you know, on content alone, the Highwaymen album, it's not just for me. It's an album by women, for women, at its core, plain and simple, and yet I still adore it because the stories are told with nuance and empathy. The production is so warm and inviting, and the harmonies hit precisely the right notes to really come together, and you like to think those are worth universal appreciation regardless of the intended audience. And you know what? If I think you're willing to accept where in the audience this will fit and where you will fit, I think it'll work for you too. 9 out of 10, absolutely one of the best of this year, the highest of my recommendations. And while I've got no idea if this is just a one-off or we could get more, I can't wait to hear it regardless of what it is. And yeah, you know what? I'll say it. They're actually worthy heirs indeed. Worth your time. Check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know I'm kind of very hyperbolically happy about this, but this was a phenomenal album. It's one of the best of the year. It will be competing for that top spot, which is not something I've been able to say for a long-ass time. But yeah, you want to buy it and stream it. Links down there below. I linked to the Bandcamp page specifically. I want them to get all their money off this. And I got the poll up there. I'm curious where the fans will fall on this of all four artists. Because I'll admit I'm not a huge fan of like Maren Morris, but really Brandi Carlile I've not dug into more, and I liked a lot of what I heard here. But yeah, so definitely I want to hear from you guys. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you're looking for the newest episode of Billboard Breakdown, which dropped yesterday, or want to see more videos on the channel, links are in the card right over there. But till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.